Have you ever looked at your family history and wondered, is this my fate too? I asked myself that question many times in my life. I watched women before me grow sick early, slow down sooner than they should have, and quietly accept decline as if it were written somewhere deep inside their blood. For a long time, I believed the same story. I believed my body was simply following instructions handed down to me before I was born. But today, at 97 years old, still clear in mind, still steady on my feet, I can tell you something I learned the hard way. What I chose every day mattered far more than what I inherited. My genetic code did not disappear. It was always there, whispering possibilities, offering risks, suggesting limits. But it was never the one in control. The real power lived in my habits, my routines, my decisions when no one was watching. It lived in what I ate, how I moved, how I slept, how I handled stress, and how I treated my own body over decades. I am not here to tell you that genes mean nothing. That would be dishonest. They shape tendencies, not destinies. They describe probabilities, not promises. What I am here to tell you is that lifestyle choices speak louder than DNA ever could. They decide which tendencies grow stronger and which ones stay quiet. I have lived long enough to see women younger than me surrender to the idea that it was too late or just genetic. I believed that lie once too, and I was wrong. If you are listening to me now, I want you to understand this from the very beginning. Health is not fixed. Aging is not automatic decline, and your future is not locked inside your chromosomes. In the next part, I will show you exactly why lifestyle has this power and how it quietly rewrites the story your genes only begin. When I was young, people spoke about genetics the way they spoke about gravity, unchangeable, unquestionable, final. If illness ran in your family, you were expected to accept it with quiet resignation. If women before you weakened early, you assumed you would too. That belief shaped entire lives. It shaped mine, until experience taught me otherwise. Here is what took me decades to understand. Genes do not give orders. They offer suggestions. They outline tendencies, not outcomes. They describe risk, not certainty. What actually decides the direction of your life is how often, how consistently, and how long you reinforce certain signals inside your body. Every day, without realizing it, we send messages inward. Food sends messages. Movement sends messages. Sleep sends messages. Stress sends messages. Loneliness sends messages. Over time, those messages grow louder than the quiet instructions written in DNA. People like to say, it's in my genes. What they often mean is, it's familiar. Familiar habits, familiar reactions, familiar coping patterns get passed down alongside biology. Families don't just inherit genes, they inherit lifestyles. The same meals, the same stress, the same neglect of rest, the same silence around emotions. And then we mistake repetition for inevitability. I learned this lesson slowly, through observation. I watched women in my family who shared my genetic background live very different lives. Some aged quickly, others remained alert and mobile far longer. The difference was not luck. It was not willpower alone. It was accumulation. Small daily choices compounded quietly, like interest. Lifestyle works slowly, but it works relentlessly. What you eat is not just fuel. It is information. It tells your body whether it should repair or inflame, conserve or regenerate. I noticed that when I ate simply, consistently, and attentively, my body responded with steadiness. When I ignored hunger cues or ate in stress, my energy collapsed. Over time, those patterns either strengthened me or weakened me. No genetic test ever explained that as clearly as my own lived experience. Movement, too, speaks directly to the body's future. I was never an athlete. I never chased extremes, but I moved every day, walking, stretching, gentle lifting, purposeful motion. Movement told my muscles, bones, and circulation that they were still needed. When parts of the body are used, they are maintained. When they are ignored, they disappear. This is not philosophy. It is biological economy. Sleep may be the most underestimated messenger of all. In my earlier years, I treated sleep as optional, something to sacrifice for responsibility or worry. But sleep is when the body edits itself. It is when errors are corrected, inflammation is reduced, and memory is organized. Poor sleep does not just make you tired, it amplifies genetic risk. Good sleep, consistently protected, dampens it. Stress was the hardest lesson for me. Stress does not announce itself as danger. It disguises itself as responsibility, urgency, even virtue. For years, I carried tension as if it were proof of character. But chronic stress changes the internal environment of the body. It tells systems to stay alert, defensive, and reactive. Over time, that environment favors breakdown, not resilience. When I learned to soften stress, not eliminate it, but respond to it differently, I noticed changes no doctor had predicted. My blood pressure stabilized, my digestion improved, my thinking cleared. The same genes were present. The signals had changed. Social connection mattered more than I expected. Isolation accelerates decline quietly. Connection slows it just as quietly. Conversation, touch, shared laughter. These things regulate the nervous system. They calm the body at a level deeper than thought. Loneliness, on the other hand, magnifies vulnerability. It does not show up on genetic charts, but it shapes outcomes all the same. This is where people misunderstand the relationship between genes and lifestyle. Genes are reactive. They respond to environment. They respond to signals. They respond to repetition. When people say genes turn on or turn off, what they really mean is that certain conditions encourage expression while others suppress it. Your daily life creates those conditions. I once heard someone say that genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. That sentence stayed with me because it is precise. A risk does not become reality unless it is repeatedly reinforced. And reinforcement does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in thousands of quiet ones. This understanding removed fear from my life, not because it promised protection, but because it restored agency. I no longer saw my body as a ticking clock set by ancestry. I saw it as a responsive system, listening closely to how I treated it. Let me be clear. Lifestyle does not erase genetics. It does not guarantee outcomes. It does not offer immunity. What it does offer is leverage. It shifts probability. It builds resilience. It gives the body better tools to manage the risks it carries. Many women believe it is too late for these signals to matter. I believed that lie myself at one point. But the body listens at every age. It may respond more slowly later in life, but it still responds. Change does not require youth, it requires consistency. At 97, I am not exceptional. I am the product of accumulation. Decades of modest, repeated choices outweighed the warnings written in my family history. Not because I fought my genes, but because I stopped obeying them blindly. In the next part, I will share how this understanding changed the way I lived day by day, and why even small adjustments made late still matter more than most people realize. Once I understood that my body was listening to me every day, I stopped searching for dramatic solutions. I stopped believing that change required force, extremes, or perfection. What mattered was repetition. Quiet, ordinary repetition. I did not wake up one morning at 90 and suddenly decide to live differently. The shift happened earlier when I realized that every small choice was either reinforcing weakness or reinforcing strength. There was no neutral ground. Even rest can be active care or it can be neglect. Even food can be nourishment or it can be quiet harm. The first thing I changed was how I ate, not by chasing rules, but by paying attention. I learned to notice how foods made me feel hours later, not just minutes later. Heavy meals brought heaviness. Simple meals brought clarity. Over time, my body taught me what supported it. This was not a diet. It was a relationship. Eating this way did not remove risk from my genes, but it reduced strain on my systems. Digestion became calmer. Energy became steadier. Inflammation quieted. These were not miracles. They were predictable responses to consistent input. Movement followed naturally. I stopped thinking of exercise as something you do and started thinking of movement as something you maintain. I moved because I wanted to keep what I had. Joints that move stay lubricated. Muscles that are used stay responsive. Balance that is practiced stays available. I never punished my body. I invited it. Gentle movement told my nervous system that I was safe, capable, and engaged with life. That message matters. Fear stiffens the body. Confidence loosens it. Over decades, that difference becomes visible. Sleep was where discipline mattered most. I protected it fiercely once I understood its role. I stopped borrowing from the night to survive the day. Sleep is when the body resolves what the day disrupts. Without it, repair lags behind damage. With it, resilience accumulates. Stress required the deepest internal work. I could not remove stress from life, but I could remove my identity from it. I learned to pause before reacting, to breathe before answering, to let urgency pass without obeying it. This changed my internal chemistry more than any supplement ever could. Stress hormones, when constantly elevated, exaggerate genetic risk. Calm does the opposite. Calm signals safety. Safety allows repair. This is not spiritual language. It is physiological reality. Social connection was not optional. I made it a practice, not an accident. Regular conversation, shared meals, being useful to others, feeling seen. These experiences stabilized my nervous system. They regulated my sleep, appetite, and mood. Loneliness, I learned, is not just emotional. It is biological stress. People often ask me what my secret is. They expect something rare or hidden. The truth disappoints them. My secret is consistency. I did not win against my genes. I outlasted their influence by refusing to amplify them. Here is something important that younger people often miss. The body keeps score over time, not overnight. You do not see the effects of lifestyle choices immediately, which is why people dismiss them. But the absence of instant reward does not mean the absence of impact. Lifestyle works in probabilities. It tilts the table. It makes certain outcomes less likely and others more available. Over years, that tilt becomes decisive. I want to speak directly to women who believe it is too late. I understand that belief. I felt it myself. But the body does not operate on regret. It operates on signals. It responds to what is happening now. Even small changes made later in life improve stability. Better sleep improves balance. Gentle movement reduces falls. Simpler meals reduce inflammation. Calm breathing steadies the heart. These are not promises of youth. They are improvements in quality and function. I have seen women my age reclaim energy they assumed was gone forever, not because they reversed time, but because they stopped working against themselves. The body is remarkably forgiving when it finally receives consistent care. This is why the idea that genetics dominate outcomes is so damaging. It encourages passivity. It tells people that effort is pointless. That belief alone shortens lives, not through genes, but through surrender. I never denied my genetic risks. I respected them. And because I respected them, I changed how I lived. That respect expressed itself as care, not fear. Your genetic code is a blueprint, not a sentence. It sketches possibilities. Lifestyle decides which lines are reinforced and which fade into the background. At 97, I am not free of vulnerability. I am free of illusion. I know what truly mattered, and I know what did not. Dramatic interventions mattered less than daily alignment. Fear mattered less than consistency, and genetics mattered far less than the choices I repeated quietly for decades. In the final part, I will leave you with what I wish someone had told me sooner. What truly determines how long and how well we live, and why it is never too late to begin acting like your choices matter. If I could speak to my younger self now, I would not warn her about genes. I would warn her about habits. I would tell her that fear of inheritance is far less dangerous than neglect of daily care. I would tell her that what feels small today becomes decisive tomorrow. At 97, I no longer argue with my genetic code. I understand it. It showed me where I needed to be careful, not where I needed to surrender. My genes offered possibilities. My lifestyle made the decisions. Nothing I have shared is a promise of immortality or immunity. Bodies remain vulnerable. Time still moves forward. But vulnerability is not the same as helplessness. Risk is not the same as destiny. What matters most is not what you were born with, but what you reinforce every day. Lifestyle does not work loudly. It works quietly. It does not demand belief. It only demands consistency, and it never stops responding, no matter your age, no matter your past. I have seen too many women give up early because they believed the story written for them was final. It is not. The body listens now. It always listens now. It responds to what you feed it, how you move it, how you rest it, and how you treat yourself internally. If you remember only one thing from my life, let it be this: your choices matter far more than your genetic code, not because genes are weak, but because your daily signals are stronger. It was never too late for me, and it is not too late for you.